Listeners everywhere, welcome to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to June, and June, of course, is busting out all over. Welcome to the movie show with Joel and Ryan. I am Joel.
And I'm Ryan.
And we welcome you to a summer of fun and frivolity and, I don't know, I can't think of a third word, and just generalized merriment. But the show today deals with what happens after we are gone. No, it's not like a dead episode, like what happens when we die. This is a what we are to each other. What do we leave behind? The legacy of what happens after a time immemorium. And in this case, what happens when movies decide they want to revisit things that the times that they used to live in, maybe when they were popular, and wanting to recapture that popularity again for a whole new generation.
Wow.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Wow, you didn't really look up the definition of a legacy sequel, did you? You just made all that up, didn't you?
Well, I mean, I went with the definition of legacy. Well, here technically, the main definition of legacy is a financial. It's a financial term, and legacy means a certain amount of money you leave after you are after you pass, after you.
That
are
makes
gone,
sense. I mean,
which
I've
makes
heard it
perfect
used in
sense. Yeah, which makes perfect sense when you think of movie legacies, because really it's all about just wanting to get that money.
About them Benjamins. I didn't know. That's neat that it started out in economics and finance. We should have had Shauna on the show, but then she would have had to watch a lot of really terrible movies to take on this one, unfortunately.
Yep. This is So I mean, it's that's technically the first definition when you look it up is it comes from the etymology of the joint. The etymology has to do with comes from the Latin legate, which is I don't remember, but anyway.
Well, the idea, the reason it's fresh in my mind, and it's because if you guys didn't know and you haven't been paying attention somehow, or you missed our May shows but are tuning in for June, we spent the month with our buddy Michael talking about the Mad Max movies. And Mad Max has an interesting, what I would call, at least in part, a legacy sequel, which we left out. Mad Max Fury Road, very popular movie semi-recently, that nevertheless came out way after the actual series that we discussed, heyday. It doesn't fit that category perfectly, but it fits it in a lot of really key ways. And Michael's like, well, when are we going to talk about that? And I was like, well, someday we're going to do a whole legacy sequel episode. And of course, we didn't invite him for this, so he's going to talk about it.
Well, he can talk about it next week. He can talk about it next week on a very special episode of the movie show with Michael and Ryan.
When we get rolling here in a couple seconds, you'll see that this is mostly a terrible idea. Even when it works, it's a legacy sequel is typically a terrible idea.
I thought you meant it was a terrible idea for a show.
No, it's a great idea for a show.
You're like, when I get going, you're going to see it as a terrible idea.
But be a little patient with us. A couple of these, when we get to the really good ones, are worthy of their own show. They're that good. So
right.
So it does. It's like everything. The Legacy sequel itself, that's not what's evil. It's how you use it, Joel.
Ah, correct. Yes, it is. It is not necessarily the superpower. It is how you wield it.
But boy, is that a big thing right now. And we'll talk about the where's and why for is of it as we go.
Yeah.
One movie at a time, like we always do.
Indeed, indeed. So let's jump on into it. I'm trying to think of like, is there any theme I want to play? But we don't really. This doesn't really fit into any of our traditional categories.
When there's no theme to play, I always break out Synth Blast, baby.
yeah. Here we go. I had it right here. Just in case. And here it is. Okay, here we go, everybody. We are gonna break down some Legacy sequels.
That's what that was for. Just to add emphasis.
Just to have. Yep. Just to have. Or I could have gone Legacy. Well, this would have made me want a Legacy sequel. So I a Legacy sequel. But yeah, that doesn't work as well. You need the.
That harpsichord always works, or it wouldn't be in a Monster Octopus film. But in the first place.
Tentacoli. All right. First up, we're going to talk about
starring Henry Fonda. Of course, Henry was in some crap at the end of his career, but that just hurts. It hurts your heart to think of him in the movie that bad.
Yep.
Those other guys,
he had a few years yet before.
There, but Henry Fonda, dude, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? Here, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to start the show.
It's good. It's good.
But I've been watching, and we actually did a show that included a bunch of these blockbusters that you left behind during the COVID era. We're like, hey, here's a bunch of big Hollywood movies that sucked, so you didn't watch them. Now you can pretend like you're having a big summer, even though nothing's coming out in the theater except Tenet, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And so I've been watching some of these fantasy movies. I don't know why, just because I couldn't get creative, and they're all kind of came out at the same time. And I was watching 47 Ronin, which is still bad. Everybody, just so you know, Gods of Egypt, the great tax write-off African experiment is terrible. But not super. Very watchable. It passes the time. None of these. Once you do a movie on that scale, it's with that many people, and even with the suits giving you notes, even when you follow the notes, it's hard to make a movie that's just not watchable or that just makes no sense or is awful on that level. And you typically don't. You make something that's boring or stupid, but not just garbage. It's just really tough. You could never have a Tentacoli in Hollywood, and you certainly couldn't have one in Hollywood today.
Right. Right. It rises. The movies like that. Yeah, movies like that only rise to the level of.
But I saw Alicia Vikander in Seventh Son, and I was like, "What the hell? What? Why?" Like all the rest of these people, I get it, cool, but what are you? Why? Or the worst one was Rebecca Ferguson showing up in that The Rock Hercules movie. What are you doing here? Why are you here? I just kind of couldn't believe it, and I was like, I guess, everybody goes through that phase, and her phase only lasted that one terrible movie.
Yep.
But
she was still
Ratner's Hercules starring Dwayne Johnson. This whole thing.
But at that point, she wasn't like. She was well.
She wasn't regarded. A big star, but she'd only done excellent things. Look at her thing.
Yeah. That's what I mean. This was the like she was trying to do of like, well, I need a big blockbuster to raise my my Q rating or whatever they call it.
Or her agent, convinced her of that,
and then they're like, well, we can, if we do this, then we can start we'll do one for you and do one for me, where I'll do your crappy blockbuster, but let me do.
He's in plenty of blockbusters. They're just good.
Now she is. Yeah.
They're just good. Maybe that was the stepping stone to that as possible. But watching her in that is like, it's crazy.
She's so, by the way, just decide, because it's one of my favorite book series of all time, and I'm loving the series. She's really good in Silo, the Silo series on Apple TV.
I never had any question. The first time I ever saw her was in that Starz miniseries, White Queen, and it just takes your breath away right from the start.
Yeah,
and I normally I take a while to get used to people, and they take a while to get used to me. But man, Rebecca Ferguson, you are here. Welcome aboard. Thank you for you.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love
all right,
it.
sorry, the show.
All right. Okay. So anyway, legacy sequel. All right. Here I'm going to read it verbatim. And it'll kick us off here.
Well, I got sort of into it last night and wrote a fairly clever rundown for the show.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. Yeah, Ryan's rundown, and I was about to sort of like mix and match, sort of like I was going to alter the order of this, but I'm going to say it the way it's written. The Color of Money, the first legacy sequel.
Well, maybe where that's a little, I mean, because Color of Money, 1988. So that's a while back, but it's an interesting movie, and I guess the reason I put it first is because it's the second oldest on this list, and so that sort of answers that question. The oldest, right? The first, no, just it isn't. We'll get to what actually it was, but it's an interesting one to talk about. It's because it is a legacy sequel, and it before anyone would ever call it that, or even consider doing one, it's because there's a big caveat with the one that actually came before it. Color of Money is not a direct sequel, but contains the same character, much more wise and aged and mellowed out by Martin Scorsese, from Robert Rossum's The Hustler, way back in I want to say the early 60s, which is the greatest billiards movie, if there is such a genre ever made. And of course, Color of Money is probably the second best or third best, perhaps. Right. But it's right up there at the top because there aren't that many of those. It's an interesting film, and really interesting to revisit a character that much later. And there may be many others that I'm not thinking of, but that's the first sort of high profile. Here were two master filmmakers in their day making these movies way, way, way apart. Same actor, same character. It's not, let's do the same thing again. Color of Money is a completely different kind of movie than The Hustler is. But that idea of where did that happen? I don't think it was, let's do a movie about this guy. I think it really was somebody's writing a pool movie and suddenly decides, well, what if the old grizzled guy was
Fast Eddie? Yeah.
You know what I mean? And being able to run with that idea and having whoever the rights holders and whoever the people were to just say, yeah, we'll work that out. And then to get Paul Newman in a Scorsese film in the late 80s is great. And so it explains kind of what it is. It's all this time later, and almost all of these share that. That's what makes them a legacy sequel, not just a sequel. Right. All this time has passed, and things are very, very different. I mean, the time jump just isn't part of the twist of the end of season 2. It's the whole shebang. It's the reality that we're dealing with as soon as we begin to write one. And you will see all of these sort of pull that off one way or another. This one does it very, very gracefully, but then of course it lets itself completely off the hook. I really do think that guy being Fast Eddie, I don't have any proof of this. There's probably out there somewhere, check it out. But I really do feel like that was decided later because it fits and works like a charm, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like even an attempt to tell his continuing saga. Right. It's more thematically rich and interesting than that, and that's why I dig it.
Yeah. I mean, it is. yeah, because if this were like a sequel, like a direct, well, I can't even like, but you're right. It's not Fast Eddie's story as much.
It kind of is.
It kind of is, but
it doesn't feel like it's, let's catch up with Eddie. It just doesn't have that feel to it at all. It really is just, this guy happens to be a guy that we have some history with. The film doesn't really dwell on that history. It just uses it to great effect because I saw Color of Money before I ever saw Hustler, decades before I finally went back and saw The Hustler. So, it doesn't even need that. But I think in a lot of viewers' minds, and I think in the filmmakers' minds, the fact that we've gone on a adventure with this guy already, and now here he is, a very changed man by things we don't even super explore. It's cool. It's that that history. Well, whenever I'm asked to concede something cool about the Marvel movies, it's harder with each passing movie. The thing is always the history with the people. I mean, they're huge entertainments that have the value of a television show's history and your knowledge of them, and that you've gone on these other adventures with them, that you've seen them get together and break up and hurt each other's feelings. And, you know what I mean? You've seen all that. And when you're spending time with somebody, that's spending time with somebody you know. And the more cheesy and iconic, or you know what I mean, the more they are their powers kind of people they are, the more value that has in the storytelling. So this really works the same way as a big superhero franchise. You know that dude, and you know him when he was the hot young kid, and now here's another hot young kid coming into the picture,
right,
and shaking things up.
Yep. All right. So if that, we look at that as sort of like the oldest, etc. But legacy sequels.
First question mark. That's our Fox News thing. We know that's not true, but if we put a question mark on the end of it.
Some people are saying that this is the first legacy sequel. Some of them are saying, and I once had a 4-star general come up to me, tears in his eyes, and he said, "Sir, The Color of Money is a legacy sequel." And I said,
"Is it?" You still always have to, when you know better, you have to end with the thing to cover your ass. Is it?
Is it? Well, one place where legacy sequels run rampant.
Why? Because sequels run rampant. I mean, what film genre, you'll get one guess, has umpteen trillion sequels every time it has a good idea? There's only one.
And that is the horror genre.
Yeah, it is the horror genre. And the first real pregnancy sequel, the legacy sequel that I could find, or that I really thought of, was a horror thing. And it's actually a very underrated one, which was Psycho 2, which came out a couple years before Color of Money, which was directed by Australian Richard Franklin, was in color, was really none of the things that Psycho was, but it's let's go back to the Bates Motel and see how things are going. It really is, let's check in here.
What's Norman up to? Anyone seen Norman lately? Well, because when we last saw Norman, I believe Norman was
behind bars. He was looking very much like his mind had been separated from his body in a really, really key way. So how do you get back into that? Well, you just sort of reset yourself and blah, blah, blah. I mean, Psycho, I don't know what Universal was thinking or what the thought was at the time, but it was really just what we think now when we reboot all these things. Not so much legacy sequels, but it's definitely the horror reboot is based, and really the reboot of any kind is based on, Ghostbusters means something. Footloose means something. These things, Flashdance means something. They mean something to people. So we can sell that. We can already sell that because we've already sold it. And they just always would rather sell an existing property than have to get you into something new. And that, I really do feel it was what motivated Psycho. But Psycho 2, not going to dwell on it, but it's in this weird category where I pretty much hate everything. And I just want to set it aside just a touch to say, well, look, it's first out the gate pretty much that I'm aware of. And it not that bad a movie. It's pretty good. It's like these Psycho series that feature Anthony Perkins. All three of them are kind of decent in their own way. The only issue is that they're cheap 80s psychological horror films, whereas, the first is a all-time classic. These just aren't that, and we're never going to be that. But that aside, they're not half bad. So I wanted to say that first. Yeah. And then what else do we have in here that
well, we
this category we kind of look as long as my arm.
Yeah, we look at Halloween. But specifically, like when Halloween sort of decided to revisit itself in 2018.
Well, Halloween's just been through a lot, and definitely sequelitis, where all the sequels are bad to some degree. I know that there are fans of Halloween 3 around here. Halloween 3 is okay, but precisely because it has nothing to do with Halloween. Halloween 2 is a well-made movie, but it's got a really terrible Empire Strikes Back like plot twist in it that just really hamstrung all the rest of the Halloween movies. They were hamstrung by themselves by simply choosing to exist when everyone didn't have any new ideas, so they deserve it. But the Halloween series, sorry, with respect to Michael, the Halloween series is terrible. It's first one out of the gates, with half as good as the very first one, and it just doesn't get better. It gets worse and worse and worse. That's what happens with pretty much all of these. And Halloween, unlike Friday the 13th, which already sucked, even the first movie's not good. Halloween is a really, really good movie. So it makes it being a massive series all the more tragic. But somewhere in there, they put Halloween aside, they ended it, and then they rebooted it. And then the reboot had 2 or 3 sequels. And then after that, David Gordon Green, I want to say, the director, came in and wanted to basically get back to what Halloween was. And Halloween 2018, I call it, because it's just called Halloween, is decent. People were really excited about it. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends are terrible. I think if you look at Halloween 2018 in context, if you look closely and you really admit it to yourself, it's fairly terrible as well. They're all bad, and they all I appreciate what they're going for to get this thing back to prominence. They were big hit movies, something that I can't remember a Halloween movie being ever. And so the legacy sequel served the series sort of, but did it really? It's hard to say. It's not the same. It is not the same, because they're not scary. They're brutal and violent and just awful. And while I prefer that to being goofy or funny, which we'll get to in a second, I much prefer it. In fact, it's still that widescreen boogeyman show, where the violence was spare, but the stalking and the sort of relentless, it's there to get you feel of the original Halloween has never, ever in any sequel of that film even been attempted, which to me is crazy. You didn't even try to do that. Why didn't you do that? That's what we all know. That's what's great about it. It's not the theme song. It's not all the callbacks. It's not the Easter eggs. I mean, come on, you guys. Yeah. And David Gordon Green, as good a filmmaker as he is, spent his whole decade making Halloween legacy sequels, and to what end? I'm not sure anything good came of those, but maybe feel free to disagree with me.
Well, I'm sure Michael will have something to say about it.
Well, he really liked Halloween 2018, but he hated Halloween Kills. And I was like, How could you? Again, with Michael, no offense, Michael, it's cool. He doesn't listen to the show anyway unless he comes on it, but he's just too busy. Although we'll see him next week. Preview coming to get up. I don't know how can you love that and hate that? Like this can't be that good and this can't be that bad is always my reaction when I read reviews like that. How can you cry 3 times during A Star Is Born remake and still hate it and give it the 1 star? Like I can't, even if it just affected you genuinely for one moment, it's surely not garbage. But then my brain doesn't work that way. So that's on me, not so much the reviewer in question.
Right. All right. Next up is Candyman. It's this Jim Candyman. No, Candyman. And
you said it 3 times. Now shut the hell up.
Well, I only said Candyman.
Fair enough, but let's just be careful, please, during this segment. It's only going to last a couple seconds.
Well, if you say the word requels 3 times, they launch another Batman series.
I had a hard time finding a definition, but the kids are all, that's a requel. They're all like, they have everything separated into all their little piles, man. I really believe there's like 2 whole generations of children who grew up sorting their M&Ms before they ate them, because it feels like that's all we do today. But that's give that a second. That's a separate category. Requel. Yeah, I mean it's sort of a sequel, it's sort of a reboot. It's got prequel elements in it. The weirdest one of these I can remember existing was the sequel, prequel / requel to 300. The Spartan fighting, that sequel, it's pretty good. I mean, I don't know how you make a sequel to the 300 when they're all dead basically at the end. You sort of show them at the beginning and then you show what happens later and you're bouncing back and forth, and it's clever, but it didn't make for a very satisfying movie. But it solved the problems of how do you solve a problem like this. So that part of it, at least, I admired. I can't speak to Candyman, but Candyman, I said it twice, I won't say it again. It was a very, very popular horror series that has gone through the ringer, and that now here it is again. And I don't know if the requel, it was a decent sized hit. It was a horror hit, but it was still a decent sized hit. Yeah. And I guess good for it.
So
let's
requel,
not ever talk about that again. Okay, yes.
I think it's
the internet definition of a requel.
Yeah, a movie which revisits the subject matter of an earlier film, but is not a remake or linear continuation of its plot.
So not really a legacy sequel at all, but when are we going to talk about that?
Revisits the subject matter. There's also interquel and midquel, which are when you insert a movie in the middle of a timeline. So I guess like Solo, A Star Wars Story would be a midquel, or
Rogue One would be one.
Rogue One would be an interquel. Because of course we know threequel, prequel. So there's all the quel suffix is getting a workout in a lot of these. So and there's the quarter quell, don't forget. Quarter quell, yep.
Hunger Games deep dives coming later this year. Hang in there.
Hello, boom. So then we get the Scream franchise, the Scream number, whatever the fuck, or it could go whatever the
no.
I hate Scream movies. As you know, I hated them right out of the gate, and I've never hated them more than I hate them right this moment. And 20 minutes from now, I'm going to hate them 20 minutes more than I hate them right now. My hate for them only grows. My contempt for them is boundless. I mean, we always say we're not sitting here to just rant about stuff we hate. That's not the movie show at all. That's not what we want it to be. But this episode has some little dark places we have to go along the ride, so hang in there. Yep. I won't talk too much about the Screen movies, as I've sort of litigated them already. If you're regular listening to the show, they don't come up very often, but when they do, I just slam them completely. And all of the written work of Kevin Williamson and all of his directorial work, his television shows, every script he's ever done, it is all terrible. Sir, the world would have been better without you. I really believe that in my heart. It's just an artistic thing. I don't know you personally, but I really do think while you have some talent, you bring only bad, awful stuff to the world.
Yeah.
And the Scream movies, they are completely emblematic of that. Let's joyously celebrate a sort of dark thing whilst providing you this endless countdown of creative novelty deaths that go on and on and on and on for a whole series. Final Destination movies are like this too, but the Final Destination movies are just for idiots, and only stupid people watch them and enjoy them. And it's so for those, it's kind of like, well, what? I'm not going to complain about those. I'll let you have them. The Scream movies have penetrated pop culture in these ways that you can't even stop. Little kids wear that killer outfit every Halloween, like in droves. It's a huge money-making thing. And despite its legacy of being kind of awful and having awful scandals on set and all these other issues that it has, being sort of really antiquated and how it doles out its love for its stars and everything else, we're still stuck here with they still keep making them and we keep seeing them. And literally the kids who grew up on the Scream movies are now making the Scream movies, and they're to their credit, they are totally making them just as bad as they did back in the day. So
yeah,
congrats.
Well, it's
definitely got the feel and the tone of those right. I mean, you know, and that's the only thing that was unique about it at the time.
The whole the whole Scream franchise is based on the notion of just someone going, look how clever I am. I came up with this cool. I'm meta. It's taking meta. Meta. This is gonna be so meta. And that seemed to resonate with the kids, the younger generation these days.
And cleverness is something that it has. It really does have it. It really does express that. So I'm not mad about its cleverness. What I dislike about them is that it marries that to a journey that it takes you on that really, really requires that you shut down your human empathy to enjoy it, because it marries it to some really dark, awful stuff and to a total lack of value in anonymous human life. So you can't look around and see a stranger or somebody you don't know bite it in some horrible way in a movie and then just sit there and convince yourself that it doesn't matter so that you can have a good time. You know, really, it's just jump scares and you're sitting next to your boyfriend and you get to grab his hand and then you get to kind of giggle your way out of that and let the tension out at the end of the theater. Like, I get what a horror movie, especially what a date horror movie is.
Right.
These are basically the ultimate ones. But I just, you know me,
Yep.
I've said it again and again and again. I don't like that. I read this article the other day, just to tie into this, and then we'll leave these behind. It was an old article, but it was not super old, but it was by some kid who was writing this article about the James Gunn Suicide Squad sequel, which we both liked a lot, despite being way too clever and way too full of darkness and violence. Like, it's all the things I'm complaining about here. It has something, though. I don't know where James Gunn pulls this out, but he always seems to pull it out right when he needs it. He pulls out some kind of soul for the thing.
Yeah.
And it makes you give a crap, at least for a second. Like, you know, even for people that you didn't get to know very well, like that initial team that gets basically obliterated at the beginning, or the horrible mistake where they came to a fascist regime and killed all the freedom fighters before they started their mission. That's darkly ironic and comic and just really dark as death of a heart to even write a thing like that. And yet we're provided with this idea that, like, the movie stops to say, what happened?
Yep.
And it makes you have to let it sink in a little bit, on at least a little bit of a blockbuster level. And this guy, he's just trying to help his fellow friends out that watch these kind of movies. And he's like, you guys, I don't know why you feel so bad for the people who died in this. They're all basically supervillains. And this article went on for paragraph after paragraph to just this guy tying himself into knots. Because when he watched this and one of these characters that I think there's a few in that movie, but there's one that everybody loves that bites it. And you feel awful. And he just doesn't want to feel awful when he watches stuff. And because he doesn't, instead of watching stuff that doesn't make you feel awful, he watches stuff that makes you feel awful and refuses to feel awful, and then writes a huge rationalization thing, which he just not only uses as a tool in his own soul, but shares with the entire world in hopes that they will also choose to feel less when they watch their next film. And I just am like, what have we come to? The Scream movies, it's not the same, but they're right in the heart of that sort of, who cares a shit about this? And if you don't really care, how can you possibly allow yourself to have that much fun? And if it's really fun, I just don't know what to do with it. I just don't know what to do with it. It's not that they're bad necessarily, although plenty of them are. There's enough of them now that there's plenty of bad ones. It's that they just offend my sensibilities, and when something does that, I get worked up about it. That's when I go out on the warpath against something, and we all have our sensibilities. I can be a sensitive Sally. Joel knows this, but it's
all right. Well, in this horror genre, we have and the rest here on Gilligan's Island.
Well, and the rest.
Is there any others that you want to talk about in the horror genre?
No, I just always think "and the rest" is so funny. Every time I hear that on a Gilligan's Island reel, I'm like, "What the hell?"
Yep.
There's only two. It's only two more people. And of course, they did correct this later when those characters ended up being as popular as the other ones they thought were important.
Yeah, was the original plan to kill off the professor and Marianne? Was that the original? Were they going to go dark with Gilligan's Island?
So no, why that's there is just because I think "and the rest" is so dismissive, and that's just my way of being dismissive to whatever is left over. There is no need to search for more. That's enough examples for you of horror legacy sequels that you can figure it out for yourself.
Well, let's move on.
Saw has them. Pick any movie that has 19 movies, and they all have them. So almost none of them are good. None of them are welcome, really, to me. So.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the Legacy. And the first movie we're going to talk about, or first movies we're going to talk about, the new one has Legacy right there in the title, and that of course is Space Jam, Space Jam, Jordan and LeBron.
Say the whole title, Space Jam.
So we have Space Jam, and then Space Jam: A New Legacy.
A New Legacy. Okay. I didn't see Space Jam. I did not see Space Jam: A New Legacy. But the fun thing about Space Jam is Space Jam isn't very good. I mean, come on, you guys. I don't know why you think it's cool. It's stupid. It's not. It's fine. It's harmless enough. It's not what the phenomena I was just talking about, which I believe is harmful, which is why I get up on my soapbox every time it comes up. This isn't like that. It's just, this sucks. You were stupid when you watched it, and it's stupid as you, and it sort of played out, and you got memories of it, or you remember having the lunchbox or whatever. I mean, this is the ultimate sort of why we would just want more money out of this. Bring something back, do it kind of the same, but do it different with different people. Slap Legacy right there in the title. Everybody hates the sequel. Both of them, though, made decent money. And you went to it. I mean, you fell for it. This is where no creativity necessary. No doing a good job is required here. This is only marketing and budget and the outlay versus the return. It is what Joel was talking about at the very top of the show. This thing exists for purely economic reasons only, and no good movies came of it. and they're still bad, and it's still a joke. And if there's any tragedy, it's that after the Legacy sequel, the I Love Space Jam joke is way less funny. It's just way less funny than when it was just a weird thing that happened at a weird time. Now it's a franchise, and now you have to have a conversation about it. And that's really, really tragic, because just liking it ironically was fun. And now it's harder to do that. The Legacy sequel makes it tough. So you don't want them to recreate every damn thing from your childhood. Don't listen to the Gen Xers, man. Don't listen to us. I mean, they've been doing that for us for decades now, and it's no longer our turn. I know that's can be difficult for us to accept, but I would just, we've been there. It doesn't work ever. I can't think of a single time when they brought back a thing that was mediocre to begin with, and somehow it turned into something magical. It doesn't happen. It certainly didn't happen with Space Jam
Space Jam, starring Leo Spaceman. All right. So we have Coming to America. Let's revisit Coming to Dos America.
I don't have any. I have a story to tell about Coming to America, and I'm just not going to tell it.
Okay.
Because it was one of those things where I was like, this explains why Coming to America is harmful, because it pits even good people against one another.
All right.
Coming to America. If you're not watching the YouTube, you're really getting let down in this segment, you guys, because Coming to America and Coming to America are not the same movie, obviously. One is the Legacy sequel that came out much, much later. And one is the movie that people really have fond memories of that, again, I would argue is not a very good movie. Don't come at me about that. It's funny, but it's not like a well-made movie. John Landis movies aren't like good-looking movies. There's a couple, I guess, that thwart that, but mostly he just makes schlock and crap. And if the crap starts good on paper, then he can get you to the finish line. If it just starts as stupid, or if everyone just stands around and improvs through the whole thing, you want to cut reels and reels of that and keep the funniest moments, and you get Coming to America. And Coming to America is at least fun. It really is fun. The premise is funny. Mm-hmm. It's got lots of funny gags in it, but it's not some good movie that deserves to be propped up or whatever. This is really, it's really economic. We remember Coming to America, haha. Well, it is again. And remember when my movies made money? Well, I better do one quick that does, but it's tougher with a few guys, Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey, comedian actors who break through and achieve some sort of level of stardom, and then really do somewhere in there, do some really super good acting. When they sort of revert back into clown mode, I always found it just completely tragic. And that's what I think of the sequel, and really any of the debate or discussion about it. It's kind of like Space Jam, except Coming to America was beloved in its day. It wasn't ripped on for being bad. It was just another bad 80s movie, but it was a bad 80s movie and a bad 80s movie, and it was one that rose to the top. So if you can't, just have some good ideas in your back pocket, or show some evolution in the humor, comedy, man, of all things, especially more than anything else. It's not evergreen. We look back and grow. If you don't look back and see the inherent sort of crazy racism in Coming to America when you watch the old version, honest to God, it's part of the fun of it now, the stereotypes and stuff. It really is. It's like, whoa, what are we thinking? We can have a little bit of fun with that. I really believe that. But why are you bringing that back from the dead when so many of the things that made it work have really died as acceptable things in our storytelling, and largely, maybe not completely, but largely for good reason. So, it's stuff to think about before you just slap the same title on something with a 2 in the middle of it.
So next up we have The Craft, Legacy.
The Craft is another one.
Yep.
I mean, I
Here we
get why
go.
kids.
Yeah.
I get why kids like The Craft back in the day. You know, the teenage witches and stuff. But it's bad, you guys. Pay attention. The Craft is a terrible movie. So The Craft, the Legacy, it's not going to be good. Craft's a terrible movie that spawned a bunch of terrible straight-to-video sequels that were only mildly more terrible because it just wasn't good in the first place. This is another one where, hey, it was a hit. Hey, this demographic enjoyed it and stand by it. How did you think a good movie was going to come out of that? And yeah, guess what? It didn't. So I don't. I mean, nobody.
Spoiler alert!
I don't need to beat that horse is thoroughly dead here with our first two discussions. I don't need to beat it here with The Craft. If you liked The Craft, hey, that's cool. There's worse things you could like. If you thought that you really wanted a sequel that really got us back to the things that were in the first Craft, you know, then you're. And I really shouldn't judge, but you're really overthinking what The Craft was, in my opinion.
The Craftiverse.
I really shouldn't judge. I mean, this could have been called, if it wasn't two of us, it could have been just called The Overthinker, you know, and you just have to sit here and listen to me rah, about every damn thing. The Craft, I haven't seen The Craft Legacy, but it has Legacy in the title, which cracks me up. And it can't be good. It just can't be. It can't be. And when you know that going into it, ask yourself why you're even there. Because we talked about it with the Transformers movies. You know, when you show up, that is encouraging them. That's how you do it. You show up. The only way to make garbage go away is to ignore it. It's the only way. There is no other way. There's no other way. You can't kill it or you make a martyr of it. You know, we've seen all the cliches throughout the years. Only way to make it go away is to ignore it. That's the only way. That's the only way.
Right.
And if you can't be bothered to ignore something terrible, God help you, then get used to more and more of this kind of thing.
Yeah, when you give it oxygen, it's just going to continue to burn. Yes. All right, and then finally, Jurassic Pork, the other white meat.
We talked about the Jurassic World legacy sequels. They are truly legacy sequels. Legacy sequels of the worst kind. Like only just barely getting the superficial thing that the original thing was and ignoring everything else purely for popcorn sales, for no other, and achieving no other artistic merit whatsoever. Just all complete empty vessels of things that you are going to see purely for nostalgic reasons. It's beating you over the head with how bad it is repeatedly, and you just accepting it, and you're not seeing one, not seeing two, but seeing three awful legacy sequels that just completely piss on the legacy of the great thing that they're copying, or that they're building their financial accounts off of. By the end of the Jurassic World films, the filmmakers, the storytellers are literally telling you the opposite thing of the very clear and important lesson of the first film in the first place. They have so completely lost the plot to sell stuffed animals and stuff, which we bought, that it's beyond the pale. It's beyond the pale. I don't know what to say. Jurassic Park didn't have very good sequels to begin with. You know, Steven Spielberg directed The Lost World, but his heart wasn't in it. And therefore, there is no heart in it whatsoever. That is really its fall down, because it's got some breathtaking sequences in it, as you'd expect. There's no heart in that thing. And it's terrible. The third one is, it's half the budget. It's more accomplished. The heart is back in it, but it clings to that because that's kind of almost all it has. Otherwise, it's just a retread. But those films continued the legacy in whatever best way they could under the circumstances. Those Jurassic World films unforgivably bad. And it's not that they're that bad, because they're not that bad. As I said earlier in the show, Hercules isn't, it's bad, but it's not that bad. How could it be? These totally follow that rule. They get you through 2.5 hours of monster mayhem. They just so, their eyes is so off the ball, and I just find that so criminal. I really find that criminal. It really still works me up to this day, but you never know. Maybe we'll talk about those more, but hopefully.
Yeah, probably not.
Hey, by the end, at least by the end, all the critics were like, these are terrible. And all the public discourse out there were like, no, they're all awful. We know that now. Like, I get that they got it, but it's still 750 million worldwide or something. It's like, God, come on.
Yeah.
Demand better. You got to demand better than that.
Right.
Boo.
Let's talk about the Tron Legacy misunderstanding legacy.
Well, because Tron Legacy was really not liked very much when it came out too. And you just, guys, this is where I'm going to go out on a limb. It's really, really, really good. It's really corny. It's like good in the same way the Matrix movies are good, the original Matrix films, which also people don't like the Matrix sequels either for some weird reason. It's disguised. It's a really thoughtful essay on artificial intelligence, on the lack of understanding, lack of empathy between entities, and how that brings us to the brink of extinction. Like, there's all, and interpersonal stuff. There's all this great stuff going on in that film, but it is disguised under this cheesy one-liner, action that isn't, that doesn't have that fun animated quality that the original Tron has. And of course, the real misunderstanding with Tron was on behalf of the executives. They sold all those video games. They saw their posters show up in all the bedrooms of all those heroes of all those TV shows. And they just got themselves thinking that Tron, the huge, expensive tentpole film of summer of 1982 that got trampled by the better tentpole film E.T. of the summer, was universally beloved, and that a Tron sequel would get them out to the and this is the crime of most, and it's tragic because it's the crime of most good legacy sequels, is that they really think there's more of an audience for the thing than there turns out to be in the end, and that leads to this fog of disappointment hanging over them that the art itself doesn't really made. Tron Legacy was made by this exact same people who made Top Gun Maverick, which everyone adores, and it's made in just as thoughtful, interesting, and reinventing of a way as that. And it's not perfect by any means. Garrett Hedlund's kind of boring in it. There's some things that are a little that aren't great, but boy, is it really, really good the more you think of it. And I just think that's the sign of a really, really good movie. And visually, yeah, it's different. It's a modern take on that world, but it's amazing visually, I think, too. So
yeah.
So that's one where if you thought you kind of liked it, but let people convince you that you didn't, it's certainly worth revisiting. If you just didn't like it, hey, it's a free country. That's cool. Don't go back and watch it again. It is still kind of the same, Right. But the Tron, I really think, just wrapped up in utter mass misunderstanding amongst us all, essentially.
Yep. I wasn't a huge fan of the original Tron movie as a kid, but I really enjoyed Tron Legacy.
Wow. Well, that's one you really don't hear as part of the discourse. So here's Joel bringing the opposite thing in.
Yeah, because I was just like, oh no, this is kind of because I didn't love the movie, but I got what the movie was doing, and I got why Tron is an important film from a technological standpoint, and what they were trying to do, and the idea of creating a sentient world inside that's in a digital, in a machine universe, I guess, for lack of a better term.
And the greatest thing about Tron, and then we'll move on because we're halfway through and we got to talk about a bunch of stuff. Tron, when you go back and watch the big computer movies of the 80s, they're all terrible, and they all fundamentally don't understand computers. There's two exceptions, one of which we did a show about, War Games. Its legacy sequel is Sneakers, not really a sequel, but very much in the same world of the same story amongst the same people after they've grown up a little bit and after the technology has grown up a little bit. War Games is outstanding, and everything in it is completely authentic.
Right.
And the other one is Tron. Tron's relationship with how actual computing works, while crazy oversimplified for a Disney audience, is on point. And as we interact with things now, you can see how sort of prescient that it was, and that's a neat thing. I mean, that really helps it hold up, I think. And it's beautiful too. There's nothing like it. I mean, visually, there's nothing like it. It's really is unique. The mix of animation techniques and live action and stuff for that time is unprecedented and cool, and just the kind of thing that should have gotten Disney, who really needed one, a big hit in '82. I really think they did everything they could. The movie's there. The audience just would rather see E.T. for a third time. You know, I don't know how many times I saw E.T. Rashida Jones says she must have saw it because they had a copy of it. You know what I mean? Must have saw it like 40 times or something. Just that summer. And I was like, I mean, I get it. That was the world at that time. We sort of forget that. We watch E.T. now and we kind of see it for what it is. It's great still, but it's you know. Yeah. Would you want an E.T. legacy sequel? Let me answer that for you. No, you do not want an E.T. legacy sequel.
You don't.
Everyone in E.T., other than the Big Brother, is still in movies and still awesome. But you just don't want that. I swear to God, you don't want it. Please, Hollywood, nobody wants this. Please protect E.T.'s purity and leave it.
And they, you know, even when people say they want it, they don't actually want it. They just want to feel like they want to feel that feeling of when they saw E.T. for the first time.
And they're attached to the fantasy of that the legacy sequel will do that for them. But like I said, Tron didn't do it. It's one of the good ones, and it didn't do it. And we'll talk about the good ones when we wrap up, because we saved the best for last, like what I always do. Not always. Sometimes I throw a little wrench in there and Joel doesn't know what the hell's going on for a couple minutes. It's kind of fun. But I am a creature of habit. Usually I save the best for last. They're coming. But Tron's a good one. It's a good one to check out. It really does stay true while expanding on the ideas and on the scale and on everything you would want out of the thing. It's a good movie that did the best it could. And it's hard to imagine, and I guess this is how you really rate legacy sequels, if they're successful or not, is it's really, really hard to imagine a better Tron legacy sequel. Even the people who hated it have a tough time standing around talking about the better movie they would have made, because it's really tough to imagine better.
All right, next up we have Legacy in Space.
We like putting stuff out in space on the movie show.
We do indeed.
It's a fun subcategory for us.
And first up is J.J. Abrams' Star Trek? No. Oh, here we go. Star Trek?
Well, no. No, because not really legacy sequels, right? I mean, it's kind of are. They have the feel and the look and the sort of re-engineered, let's do the story again feeling to them, definitely. They definitely coast right off into Hollywood, like executive bliss, where they have absolutely nothing to do with the original films and are just their own big, dumb blockbuster things. But there was effort and time given, and this is why they're going to survive the legacy sequel guillotine right from the get-go, into making these a part of the universe whilst making them completely independent of each other. And it's actually the masterstroke of the series. It's a great technique they use that is never repeated as well on that level again of the film. And the other reason, because that Facebook rant all those years ago, by whose name I can't remember, I'll repeat it here. I've said it before. It's the greatest. It's the second greatest thing I've ever read. No offense. Rest in peace. The greatest thing I've ever read on Facebook was by my comedian friend, Cece. She wrote, oh my God, OMG, y'all. Crack is whack. Whitney Houston, crack whore. That's the greatest single Facebook post I've ever seen. That's, of course, when Whitney was alive and before we were making documentaries about how awesome she was, when she was just on an awful reality show with Bobby Brown that was literally like watching two people kill each other with meanness. That's, you don't see that show anymore again because we're trying, in her death, we're trying to rehabilitate her, and her art deserves to be rehabilitated. So I'm all for that. But that post, man, that's just, Cece, you nailed it, girl. That is correct. Crack is whack. And the proof is Whitney Houston crack whore. It's really tough to watch. So that was the best. But the second best, because while I disagree with pretty much everything this person wrote, I really get that angry, desperate feeling. I know that place where that comes from was all directors lie. All directors lie. They all lie. J.J. Abrams said that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't Genghis Khan, and he was. He lied. And it's true, you can't trust directors, and you certainly can't trust J.J. Abrams. He's the least trustworthy of all the modern storytellers. But Benedict Cumberbatch was not Genghis Khan. In J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, and it's so awesome that in your rage, you got everything wrong, and yet the rage still feels so right, Joel. I don't know how to explain it.
Right. It's so good.
Star Treks don't count. They're off the hook. They get a pass. I don't know what sound effect we have for that, but go in peace. They're not good exactly, but they're not legacy sequels, and if they were, they're not tragically bad ones.
That's not the sound I was.
That's good enough.
For.
The Kelvin timeline. We're done with that. What's next?
Okay. J.J. Abrams, Star Wars. Yes. Unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, those are legacy sequels. I mean, we've lived with them for a while now. I think we were fairly charitable to them in their first go around here on the show, and I feel good that we were, because I don't think they're crimes against humanity or anything, and I don't even think they're really crimes against Star Wars. But when you can look at the prequels, which are hackneyed and corny, and just see more integrity, because you really do. There's more integrity to them. They really are trying to tell you something. They're not trying to help you relive something. And I really do believe that's where the disconnect is. That's another where I talk for minutes and minutes, and Joel just hits the nail on the head. The Star Wars sequels want you to relive Star Wars without, and in the couple of moments where they were brave enough to do their own thing, they were lambasted and punished financially in a way that actually really affected future creative decisions at this massive studio. So if the nerds ever won, I think the only real nerd victory out there was the Fantastic Four reboot getting smashed. And even that was like, why? Did you even wait to see it? Chill out. It's not great, but it's not worth all this terrible energy. Star Wars, though, unfortunately, it's a different beast altogether. It's a massive part, a multi-generational, huge storytelling juggernaut. And when you think of those sequels, even though they were diverting the first time through, and J.J. Abrams films, with only one exception, all suffer from this, which is they're all really fun the first time through and you don't know what the hell's happening, which is why he's so secretive and tricky with you. And they all hold up less and less with repeated viewings. Every single one of them, all of them. And that's so sad, because what's great about the Star Wars movies is they hold up. And the reason they hold up is because it's not just rabbit-da-babbit-da-babbit-da-babbit-da-babbledy-bluck. although it's a lot of that, there's something key. And the prequels, with all the bad acting and terrible dialogue, it still has this there, where there's something in the storytelling, that worship storytelling, that has these archetypes that we hang on to and that we read into ourselves into. The sequels, man, they don't do that. And they are legacy sequels, truly, because they really are, let's join everybody way, way later. Some people come out fairly unscathed in them. Harrison Ford does.
Billy D.
Yeah, not as good, but Billy D wasn't as good. It wasn't as massive a responsibility to make it, but pretty good, I would say. Even Chewbacca actually pretty good. If we're gonna talk about all of them, right? But man, let's just, again, like the kid right in the Suicide Squad. These guys just sat around chasing their tails, desperately trying to do all the same things we've already seen before.
Right.
And the second time through, when you don't feel it as much, it loses everything. And it's not criminal or anything. They did the best they could. I really believe that in my heart. So I'm not mad at them. I just think they're pretty bad, actually. And it makes me sad these few years later to kind of come to that realization and to wake up to that. They're not Jar Jar Binks bad, where we can easily hang somebody on the dartboard and just punish them relentlessly for a decade.
Right.
The badness is spread throughout, and it's kind of a little like Tron. It's a misunderstanding in what that original material was. It wasn't that it took place on the desert. That had nothing to do with it. That just was what it was. That's not why we were identifying with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you just go through each plot point of those things, and you just come across that again and again and again. Yeah, okay, here we are in the cantina again. Here we are here. Here we are there. Here we are with these guys. Here we are with those guys. You got to do more than that. You really have to, I think.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to what I have a feeling you're going to have a bit to say about, and that's Willow and the Great Disney Plus Purge.
Well, Willow's not even hadn't even been out for a year yet, and it's already gone. It just flat out doesn't exist unless you want to go torrent it or something illegally. You can't watch it, and that to me is absolute insanity. I mean, I don't know what that is. That's like going out in the Middle Ages with a piece of parchment and a big metal stake and just pounding a list of failures into your front door. That's essentially what Disney Plus did with The Purge. And there's nothing I'm really into in The Purge. And I got to say, I'm not super into the Willow Legacy sequel either at all. And real quick, substantively, why don't I like it? Because Willow is no heavy, serious thing. It's not Lord of the Rings, it isn't, and it shouldn't be treated like it is. It's just fun. But the reason it was number 2, Joel, on our best fantasy films of the 80s. It's because it's just huge production values and, dare I say, a Star Wars-like experience in a fantasy setting. You relived some of those same emotions and archetypes, but with all new characters and in a different sort of thing. And in fairness, it threw a couple of surprises at us. That's not great. I mean, but that's pretty good. That's really, really good, in fact, for 88. At the end of all those fantasy films, to have one come out that wasn't the worst one, that was one of the best, is impressive. And it took Lucasfilm and Imagine Entertainment, and it took this whole army of people to make that happen. That Willow, guys, it's almost like the last thing I want to be is one of these guys sitting here going, it's woke, or it's this, or it's that. I mean, but it's hard not to understand those types of asinine complaints when you watch it. It's not that it's about young people. It's about 5 young people. And when you get 3 of them in a room, all you have is a love triangle. That's all you have. 5, and it's all about identity issues. It's like, it's not 90210, but what's the crappy ones that came later? Ocean something.
Like in the Heights.
Those things. I mean, it really is way too much like those.
One Tree Hill.
It's weighted down by those sorts of bickery teenage relationships because it just decided to have all but two of its main characters be teenagers. And I think that's crazy. And I guess if you're going to do that, then this is how it turns out. And then you do it. And in that respect, it's not terrible. I found it watchable and fun, but it's neither thing. It's neither Willow, nor is it something cool that's new. And Disney, hearing those criticisms and believing them, it nixed any idea that it would continue and absolutely slammed the door shut on its existence by wiping it off the face of the earth. And Disney's not alone. All the streaming services have done this. Unlike what Joel was probably thinking, I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm just going to show you this as Exhibit A. Willow has no life. The prequel series is not even a year old, and it has no active life or any sort of way that you can watch it without actually breaking some minor laws. And that's not supposed to be how the bright new future was supposed to work. We were told we were going to get services lie, Joel. They lie.
That we were told that Disney Plus wasn't Genghis Khan. It is.
It is. More on that later.
We were told we were going to get everything, warts and all. Like there was, this will be a place where literally everything can live, even the stuff that maybe
where your go-to. And now they're cutting huge, expensive shows after less than a year. They're just tucking their tail just to save on bandwidth. It's criminal. Yep. It's shameful. Yep. It's shameful, but it's corporate. And anyone who expected anything different, it was not paying attention to America for the last 200 years. So sorry.
Right. All right. Let's move to some sequels that legacy sequels that missed it by that much. And first up is Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah, maybe a little more than that much in that case. Yeah. But here I'm going to start trying to defend some things here. This is where this begins. Tron Legacy aside, which I thought we needed to stick with the legacies. The Matrix Resurrections, let's not get into what it is. Maybe we'll discuss it someday in the future. It is a legacy sequel. It is let's do this again. The thing that's neat about it is it resolves in a way that the prequels or that the actual Matrix sequels did not. The love story between Neo and what's her name? Trinity, thanks. In our very first, it's great. You'll never get to listen to it probably while I live, but in our very first, let's just sit down on the couch, man, and do a show, episode 0.0.
Yep.
Where we talk about a bunch of stuff, fun things. But one thing that comes up is the Matrix films. And Joel's like, you know what? One of the things I hate about the Matrix movies, and is like, no, what's that? He's like, it's like Trinity's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what'd the Oracle tell you? He's like, oh, I'm going to, save the universe or whatever. What did the Oracle tell you? Oh, I'm here to service the one, is what Joel said. She's basically been pushed into the line, and she genuinely falls in love with him. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, but she's been had this romantic seed planted in her head of this undying perfect love. And we're left to question, truly, okay, it's not that I don't question their love, but was this love a self-fulfilling prophecy? Was this, there's a common trend, but I believe the movie's aware of that. I really do think the Wachowskis are both aware of the trope and know that they're seeing it playing out in their own movie. Maybe they're not, but I really think they are. And I think that gives us time to ask these questions, and it becomes an interesting question instead of a deadly criticism in that case.
Yeah.
But you should question that. There's no question about it. And Matrix Resurrection's the one thing, and it's really only one thing, because everything else is fine and good enough to, like I say, pass the time. That's about the threshold it gets through. It's not embarrassingly terrible or anything. It's just very, very disappointing, even compared to the disappointing sequels. The one thing it gets right is it absolutely takes on that idea and it resolves that relationship. The movie is kind of all about that. And that's a thing left over from the original story that was worth exploring further, I think. There are a lot of things I would change about it otherwise, but it really does do that in a way that I appreciate. And so it deserves to be, if not exonerated, it deserves to be, paroled on good behavior, I think, at this point. So that's what I'll say about Matrix Resurrections.
Yeah. And then let's go back to the Disneyverse and look at Mary Poppins Returns. Mary Poppins regenerates like a Time Lord.
Mary Poppins Returns. Let's just start with it in a vacuum. It's really, with legacy sequels, it's impossible to do, and it's why these are really tough. Mary Poppins Returns in a vacuum is a pretty nifty, Disney holiday release. Got some neat songs in it. It looks nice. It's got some good actors giving superficial but still semi-decent performances in it. Boom. That doesn't sound too bad, right? It's not. What is it missing? Because I'm telling you, I don't care who you are, even if you love Mary Poppins Returns, and especially if you love Mary Poppins like a lot, which a lot of people do, what is it missing? I ask you because I know you know. I know you know deep down it's missing something. What is it? It's hard to put your finger on. It really is hard. But let's go back to Walt Disney possibly being Genghis Khan for a second.
Yep.
It's fun. It's fun to all those rumors about Walt Disney and how crazy he was and how he was fascist and how he's all these crazy things. Those are really, I'm sorry, but they're really, really fun. And the more distasteful they are, the funner they are. So they're really ugly jokes. I'm not going to repeat the worst of them here, I promise. But it's funny because it's like, isn't it funny to think that, it's like when the South Park, when they're panning through hell and one of the people suffering on the gallows is Michael Landon.
Yeah.
It's like, if anybody in the history of entertainment got to get into heaven free pass, surely it was Michael Landon. So to see him burning in hell and have no other comment made about it is funny. It's super funny. Like, hats off to those guys. They are funny. And the more distasteful they are, sort of the more funny they are. And that's always been true with Walt Disney's. Okay, I won't go any further down that road. But the point is, whatever it comes from, a bright, happy, perfect place of harmony and wonder, or some dark, awful place, or likely, like all of us to some degree, puts a little bit of both mixed in this guy. He took that story and he ruined it. He basically completely ruined the novel. Like, if you were fans of the book at the time, there's no way you could have liked Mary Poppins, because it's like what we've been talking about. It sort of misses the point of the whole thing. There's a whole movie made about that, which is actually a better legacy sequel probably to Mary Poppins in some ways.
Right.
Than the Mary Poppins sequel is, or legacy sequel is itself. That movie's called what? Mr. something?
Saving Mr. Banks.
That's not a great movie either for lots of unfortunate reasons, but it's pretty good. That's one's worth checking out if you're a Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I liked it. Okay, yeah, it's
not half bad. And the Walt Disney author sequences are the ones that really work. It's the flashbacks that are tough to swallow. That is directed by John Lee Hancock, and it's got a lot of John Lee Hancock sort of isms in it that bring it down. Bring it down, baby. But it's still good. But I guess what I'm getting at was was, in a dictatorial sort of way, Walt forced Mary Poppins from its source material into being really, at least from a live action standpoint, sort of the most perfect Disney movie that there is. It just is this thing that comes from, if not from his true heart, I don't know what you guys think or what your conspiracy theories are, but it comes from that unending ambition that he had in his lifetime to tell that kind of story in that kind of way. And it does still, in spite of that, and in spite of the compromises in it, it does it in a way where the point of it still does kind of come across, which is really, really neat, which speaks well of good storytelling from the get-go, I think. And the Legacy sequel, disagree with me if you'd like, it's a pretty good movie. It doesn't have that. It's missing that. It's missing the once they sent me, Joel was the beneficiary of this, once Disney Movie Club sent me Blu-ray of The Black Hole that didn't have the overture on it, and of course all us geeks just freaked out, and some clever dude put it in a computer and started de-authoring the disc, and he's like, it's actually here, it just doesn't play because it's like on an optional menu, and there's nothing in the menu that says play with overture, so it can't be played, but they put it on the disc. So hey gang, it might be worth writing Disney. I mean, normally this is a lost cause, but it might be worth writing them and saying, hey guys, you clearly intended this to be here. All you really need to do is author future discs with the play with overture, and you just link it and stuff. But of course, if you've ever gotten a Disney customer service person on the phone, man, they are living in a whole different reality than the rest of us. They're living in a much happier place. But the thing that they said to me was, we are so sorry that some of the magic was left out of your recent order. That's how they start everything. Like you missed the magic, and the Mary Poppins Returns has everything but the magic. That's my sort of statement on that. It does everything right and misses the magic. How does it do that? It's almost unfair to criticize it for it. So that's why it's in this sort of happy place on our show. It's good. I mean, good job. Hard to imagine a better Mary Poppins sequel, right? But it's just definitely missing something, and it doesn't seem to be something you could pick from a list of menu items of stuff that they could have done. It's missing something inexplicable, and that's such a bummer because it's just almost there. It's really almost there.
What about let's talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Well, we already talked about that not too many episodes ago. That was because I came to it really late because of where it fell in the release calendar. That Halloween era is always kind of tricky for when I'm going to watch stuff. It's usually a whole year later, which in this case it was. But I remember back in the year in review, whatever the hell, sequels, prequels, requels, now we have to add to it remakes and reboots. That version, which was one of the final ones we did, I like Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I still like it a lot. But it's funny, it's worth mentioning here because I like it for all the things that have nothing to do with being a legacy sequel. All the stuff that's good in it is the time we spend with people we don't already know. Solving a mystery that is connected to definitely the original story, I think, in a clever way. So that there's some neat stuff going on there, some neat Easter eggs and stuff. But it's really just you made one of these sort of BMX bike neighborhood kids go on adventure stories, a good one. You made a good one. So what's bad about it? Well, the legacy part is terrible. CG Harold Ramis is terrible. I'm sorry, but it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Don't do that anymore, please. When all our old heroes show up, there's one good scene in the middle of it where they call Ray's Dan Aykroyd character's old bookstore and start asking him a bunch of questions, and he gives them a bunch of super complicated answers. That scene is fantastic. The Ghostbusters showing up in full regalia at the end to help the kids fight it's terrible. And all the sweet, weepy, huggy crap that comes after that goes on for another 15 minutes is objectively awful. And this film was written by a fairly clever guy. And obviously, lazy ass Paul Rudd waltzing through something with nothing but charisma and just not a care in the world for actual storytelling is always bad. And it's just as bad in this as it is in anything. In fact, this is emblematic of why it sucks. Or if he sucks, which he doesn't, why he would. We'll just say that. I'll try and be a little diplomatic with Paul, because I don't like him like the rest of you guys, but you do want to like him. You really do. I mean, there you go. Here's a guy who, unlike Mary Poppins Returns, has something that is only inexplicable. There doesn't seem to be any evidence of anything else happening there. That doesn't make me mad. That more frustrates me because I cannot wrap my brain around what that is from an analysis standpoint. And so that's why it keeps coming up on the show. Anyway, but it's not just him, because that movie makes Carrie Coon, who is awesome in every way that Paul Rudd isn't, look equally sort of lost in the weeds. Why is that? I'm not exactly sure. But hey, for an hour and 30 minutes in a pretty long Legacy sequel, you're riveted by what's happening in this town, what these kids are discovering, what they're discovering about each other, the friendships, their loyalty, their bravery in the face of true danger. All that stuff is happening in and amongst slime and bright pink laser beams and all that stuff that makes it feel like a Ghostbusters movie. So it's pretty great, and yet the stuff that's bad about it is really super, super bad. So I don't know. So there you go. I'm still gonna until I change my mind. I'm gonna stay in that one's corner. I think it's pretty good.
Sure. All right, next category. Let's label everything, or why millennials are wrong about what is and is not a Legacy sequel.
Sorry, millennials. I only put millennials in there to get more clicks. That's the only reason.
I'll make sure I hashtag it in
all of humanity is guilty of this, not just millennials. But I find that if we put that in there, the millennials go crazy and they just flock to you and they come to what millennial controversy is happening now. So sorry, Gen Z, we've tried it with you. It doesn't work as well with you. It only seems to work with the millennials for some reason. Perhaps it is in the name. I don't know. Because you, Gen Z, you get this just as wrong, if not more wrong than they do, but you don't get the clicks. It's like you don't fall for it. I don't know what it is. We won't get into that anymore.
I've seen your trickery before, Gen X.
Exactly. I'm sure it's something like that. That's fair. So it's millennials. I just thought it was a funny double. What do you call that? Those double titles from the Victorian era,
right? I don't remember the Lifetime original movie titles. And we're gonna start talking with the live action Disney remakes.
Yeah, those aren't Legacy sequels; they're live action remakes. Although they're worth bringing. So why they're not? I'm just bringing them up to correct you. They're worth bringing up here because they contain none of the benefits of being a Legacy sequel and suffer all of the pitfalls of being one. If they're good at all, it's amazing because they're really difficult things to pull off. And of course, some of them are awful, which is shocking because you shouldn't be able to make like Lion King awful or Cinderella awful. And you just kind of found a way to do it, which is weird. And the ones that really do work are the ones that, this is their fifth time showing up. Like I think without the Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast live action movie is not nearly as good as it is. Like if they've adapted it a bunch of times and it's sort of gone through the ringer and now it's come out in a way that it's been tested, you know what I mean? As a live action thing. So that film, I don't love it, but it works pretty good. Hard to imagine a better live action Beauty and the Beast, by the way. Yeah. And Beauty and the Beast is perfect. So we got Little Mermaid is out now. Yes, came out yesterday. People are same thing. People are up in arms about it, or are they really, really liking it? And those people are all kind of at each other's throats over it. And of course, that's a film that started out in a really ugly, awful, racist place anyway.
Right.
Which is super too bad. So I'm rooting for it like I did the others, but some of these, the Aladdin, like some of that was cool, some of it was crazy weird.
Yep.
It's just hard to get on board with any of these because this task is designed to make money regardless of the quality of the film, and it's working. But are any of them really really good? Yes. Jungle Book is really really good. So far, that's it. The rest of them, none of them, I don't think are embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
I got through Aladdin and enjoyed it okay, but why are they doing this? Why is this happening? Why do you even want this? This is a place where it's just a great place to start asking some of these questions. If you don't want to do it, you just want to let life happen. I get it. That's the life we're living in. The world we're in, we deserve to just escape for a little while. I get it. I really do get that a lot. And I may escape to different places, but I do the exact same thing. Joel does the exact same thing. Joel watches ridiculously positive stuff in his free time. He just gravitates to it like a magnet because please let me have some of that in my life in this long day and this long, tough fight that we're in. I just want to feel good for a while. I get it. And these really do sort of, whereas me, I don't need to feel good. I just want to feel stuff. So just whatever, throw it all at me. I don't care. I just don't want to be numb anymore.
That was, weirdly enough, that was the alternative title to this podcast. We were going to call it I Just Don't Want to Be Numb Anymore with Joel and Ryan.
Oh, we're running out of time for B segment, but the best of the things B that are coming, we're going to fly through because these all have a shot at getting a deep dive of their own. We've already promised a couple of them. So all I'm saying is you ask yourself, why are we doing these? Why Maleficent? Why, Maleficent, to be fair, I tried to do something
Mulan?
Different.
Yeah.
Why Mulan? I mean, that's a huge discussion of its own. I'll give Mulan a little credit, as boring and staid and sort of stolid as it is, and how super unfun it is. Mm-hmm. I get why they did it that way, and that does give me some comfort.
Yeah.
But why are we doing this, and why are we letting them have it this way? This repackaging in a mediocre way that isn't anywhere near as good as any of the originals. Why are we not going back to the originals like we always have? Maybe at the end of this cycle we're in, we'll prove that we are and that is what we actually do. We'll see, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is Jason Bourne and Not the Bourne Legacy.
Not the Bourne Legacy. Yeah, because strangely, the Bourne movie with the legacy in the title is the continuation of the story without old Jason in it. They asked Jason Bourne, I believe they were doing like press junket for the Green Zone, which is a really, really good movie by the people who brought you the Jason Bourne movies. Matt Damon and the director's name slipping my mind. Why do they always
give me a mo.
Greengrass.
Yeah.
Doug Liman, to be fair, directed the first Bourne movie, but Greengrass and Damon are pretty much the holders of the copyright at this point. So what am I saying here? Let's just get to the point. Bourne Legacy, which everyone hated because it didn't have Jason Bourne in it and it wasn't the same thing all over again, is fantastic. That movie is really, really good. Renner is really, really good in it, but the thing that makes that movie great is Rachel Weisz's character, who has nothing to do with any of this and gets does, but doesn't, and gets completely caught up in this story. That human element has been less and less. It's been more and more missing since we turned away from Franka Potent's character from the first film. And here it is again, and it makes the whole thing come back to life in a glorious way. That is a fantastic sequel that does something different with the same material. It's not by the same filmmakers, but it's by the same writer. It's by Tony Gilroy. When the third Bourne and Most Favored Bourne came out, Greengrass and Matt Damon were again doing the press junket, and they were ripping on Gilroy's script for that film, saying they didn't even understand what was going on anymore. You could tell that they wanted to be free of him and his deep, dark, twisted conspiracies and stuff. And they didn't want to do anymore. And when asked Matt Damon, when asked, are you going to do another Jason Bourne movie? He goes, yeah, we could call it the Bourne redundancy. And Greengrass got a huge chuckle out of that. And that's actually a great one line. You've had enough of this. Don't you want something different? Well, the franchise got together. They wanted to keep the name going. They wanted to resell you the same stuff. It actually made a good movie. And then when that made money, but it wasn't as big as the other ones. When everybody was down on their luck and needed a big hit, Greengrass, so they'd let him keep making all these other dark, sad films that he wants to make. And Damon, who hadn't had a hit for a while, decided to do another Bourne movie. And what is it? It's like the worst legacy sequel out there. It's everything the same again, with diminishing returns at every single turn. The lady in his life gets sacrificed again, spoiler alert, for Jason Bourne at the beginning, so they have something to be mad about. It just boom, 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 right down the line in absolutely 100%, he used the correct term, redundant fashion. That film has no life to it, and the idea that they gave you back the same thing again and again and again, and that you thought that was the return to form, you just need to watch more movies, seriously, because it was anything but that. It was the fourth final nail in the coffin of the franchise in terms of the quality of storytelling. And the thing that is missing from the production team is, what is it? It's the writer, Tony Gilroy, who everybody loves now because of Andor, right, and because of us, but yeah. The Gilroy brothers, anything their name is on is worth watching, and the Bourne sequel, certainly it applies to them. But Tony directed the Bourne Legacy, and you could feel what came from him. And then when you watch Jason Bourne, in a way, you can feel what came from the other guys, and you can really feel the divide between the two. And the thing that was good about these from the get-go, the thing that really was keeping them together, not surprising, Joel, I mean, it's never surprising to me, was the writing. Without the writing, you're just flopping around out there reliving stuff, and that's a major pitfall of a legacy sequel. You're probably not the same guy who wrote it that's writing it sometimes, but usually not. And Jason Reitman, Ivan Reitman's kid, is writing this worshipful love letter to Ghostbusters, and when he's doing that unabashedly, his movie's kind of awful. It's weird. When he's not, and he's making it his own thing, it's kind of awesome. So, it just shows you. Same with Jason Bourne. Terrible legacy sequel. Don't make any more of those. You should have made that one. Just give it up. Or you want to reboot the thing, give it a few years and give some kid the chance. That will suck too, probably, but that's the only place to go with this, is to restart it and to reevaluate some of the same themes. If you just keep telling the same movie over and over again with the same people, and they show absolutely, absolutely zero personal growth from film to film, it becomes the more you do, the more frustrating it becomes, and the more redundant it feels. The Bourne redundancy. Right. That's what that movie should be called, truly.
Yeah.
Alicia Vikander's in that one too. What are you doing in there? What are you doing in that stupid movie?
Well, I mean, yeah,
I get it, but why? It's terrible. And she even she was like, somebody asked her, some interviewer. I was like, God bless this interviewer. Is like, when she was doing the Lighthouse movie, I can't remember what that's called now, with Michael Fassbender. They asked her, and she was like, "Oh, well, I just really like the Bourne movies and really wanted to be in this movie with these guys." Well, that's the wrong reason to say yes to something. I mean, I want to do a movie with this filmmaker and I'm just going to trust him. That's not necessarily the wrong reason. But a franchise, I mean, I just want to be part of this. Like, that's the way people have tripped into some of the worst performances of their careers, honestly, is just saying yes before seeing if there's anything there to actually do that's good. Sure. So,
what about Bad Boys for Life?
Terrible. I mean, and not even really a legacy sequel, because the Bad Boys sequels had been laid out a little bit. It did come quite a bit later after Bad Boys 2, but this one's here because it's considered a legacy sequel. It has the number 4 in it, even though it's the third movie. Weird. And Will Smith, as part of his actorly doctrine, is I don't do sequels, but for some reason, he did do them for the Bad Boys movies. And I think when his career is over, we're going to be looking at those and asking ourselves, why? Why'd you keep doing those? I mean, first movie's not bad. It's all right. It's a Michael Bay movie. I mean, what do you want? But it's one of the better Michael Bay movies, I think. Second movie's super Michael Bay-ish and really loses what the first one was, the fun of it, for just bigger scale action and everything that a film like that doesn't need. And the third one is just darker and meaner and uglier because they don't have the budget for the giant action anymore, and yet they have plenty of jokes. But now it's hung on this drug lord story with all his terrible, huge body count and awful drug murders and stuff. It's like,
right.
So you made them, and you made each of them like demonstrably less fun than the first one, too. And that's bad. It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it is on that line. You could argue with me that one's not a legacy sequel. It's not that much later than the second one, but
right.
If you look at them on a timeline, you'll see later than.
And the way it was presented to us feels like it has. Yes, technically it hasn't been that long, but the whole point of it was, y'all ain't gonna believe what what these guys are still at it. Come on, and it's it was sort of presented to us as an audience as especially Will Smith's character. This guy still is at it, and and hilarity and action ensue.
One thing I'll say nice about the Bad Boys movie, but it would have been enough just to say this about Bad Boys, is Martin Lawrence as the straight man is really, really fun. Martin Lawrence as the straight man is really fun. I just said it again. I don't know if it helped the second time.
Well, if you say it a third time, Martin Lawrence will appear.
No, I won't do that then, because other than him being fun as a straight man in these, because he's fun. He's the uptight partner who doesn't want to do anything, and he really, really. That's
Martin. The one of the good things they realized is
he's a huge comedic presence himself, and for him to understand the funniness and that we're going to completely relate to him more than the other character because he's like, wow, what's going on? It's smart. It's smart. And it doesn't feel in the first movie on the page necessarily like that's the guy he would be.
Right. And Martin, it's also an awareness by Martin and his people around him, etc., to understand that one of the keys to Martin Lawrence's comedy is his ability to use his face as a rubber mask.
Yeah,
and his reactions, his when he is put under stress, it's not just a look of fear. It is, and the magic of what he has done in his career and why he has had such a big career as a comedian and as a television performer and in some movies is somehow when he makes these over the top facial gestures, they're still somehow grounded in a reality. Like it works. It's that little bit
come from his core, even though
it's that little bit of it. It's a little bit of.
Whereas Jim Carrey's funny
magic
faces come from a Bela Lugosi How to Act in the Movies handbook.
Right. Correct.
There's no core there to that guy at all.
Let's just for time.
Let's move on to. Who knew it would become a Martin Lawrence love fest?
I
would have told you there was no chance of that ever happening on the show, but I like him in those films. That's the one saving grace.
Martin Lawrence is great as the straight man. Oh crap! The Candyman showed up.
What?
I hate that. I hate when I get my.
I hate when I get murdered by the Candyman because I accidentally talk about Martin Lawrence.
When I talk about Martin Lawrence and the Candyman shows up. Hi, Jim Candyman. All right, Mad Max Fury Road, the one that triggered this whole episode. It's not a legacy sequel.
It's not. Is it? It is. Is it?
I don't know.
It is. It is a legacy sequel. Is it? The weird thing about Fury Road is Fury Road was conceived like basically back in the early 90s. and it was supposed to have Mel Gibson in it, and it just befell all kinds of problems. So it was always called Fury Road. Like, I've been reading it in the trade magazines in pre-internet days that's what the thing was called. So he'd been carrying that movie around forever and just eventually got to make it, but didn't get to make it with his star. I think it is a legacy sequel, or is it? It's a little bit difficult. I think it is because of the time that passed. Because it's what it is more than a legacy sequel, is a reboot of Mad Max. But they're not making another Mad Max movie. They're making another Furiosa movie, is the next Mad Max universe movie that's coming out. So I really do think that's a franchise reboot first and foremost. All of these intend to be. This is the one that worked, I guess. Maybe we'll get more Ghostbusters sequels. Hard to believe we won't get another Top Gun.
I can't help but feel like they're talking in this. So going back to what I was reading before, when we were defining legacy sequel and the word legacy and etc. Legacy is a work that follows the continuity of original works but takes place further along the timeline, often focusing on new characters with original ones still present. Legacy sequels are sometimes also direct sequels that ignore previous installments entirely, effectively retconning preceding events.
Like Superman Returns would be one of those.
Yeah, that's one that they cite here.
Yeah, that's a great example of it. Of let's drop this in the middle of the continuity and not even really take the continuity seriously. Which, unfortunately, for the audience of that day, the continuity is important. This Mad Max Fury Road has it both ways, and I don't mean to talk about. We'll talk about it with Michael around, and we'll really talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about a couple of these at the same time. And it's hard to imagine a deep dive into Fury Road because it's all action. It's literally all action. There's not a plot to speak of like there is in the other movies, you know. Maybe we can talk about the action and the way we talk about plot. That's what's great about the action in it. But it's all action with intention and very, very little character-driven like plot. It's a chase. The chase slows down, it speeds up, stops, but it's a chase the whole time. It's a final chase the whole time. So it's a weird one that way. I really do believe, though, like all legacy sequels, not just it came later, but we're given the benefit of having spent the time with that character, very much like the first movie we talked about, like Color of Money. We even though it's played by a different actor, so it's a reboot technically. I really feel like that film, it benefits from being a legacy sequel, and it takes that story with that amazing action and leaps it forward into a place where the action can just be off the hook crazy. And as CG enhanced or whatever it is, I think the action in that film feels completely photoreal at all times. And I think that's kind of stunning, especially with all the 3D gimmicks that are in it and stuff. So it's a big winner if it is a legacy sequel. It's kind of, this goes back to the millennials a little bit, not you guys personally, but that segment. Let's label everything. Let's make sure we're labeling everything right. We'd be complete hypocrites to be like that. We shouldn't label things. I mean, if we couldn't do the show, if we didn't label stuff, put things in categories, rank things, we couldn't do it. You have to use those tools to be able to get yourself into these discussions. This show, as much as any one we've ever done, is full of just labels. But I will just say, when you get into the minutia of why the label, why not the label, you have divorced yourself from speaking of anything that has anything to do with art. And I would always say, and I try and live by this, but I would always say the best advice is get away from the label and get back to the art, whether it's music, whatever it is. Get back to discussing the music and not discussing the label. If that's a trap that moves you further from God, truly. So this seems like a good time to reiterate that. Right. But this one's tough. This one's tough to stick an easy label on. That's not a bad thing. That's actually
not a bad thing. Yeah.
It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, we're not saying that as a knock on it. All right, so we're going to end on category of when almost everything clicks.
And we'll fly through these.
Yep.
It's weird to fly through the positive ones, but some of these I know are going to have their own deep dives.
And yeah, we've talked about these before. We've also will talk about them.
But
you know,
don't just because we cruise through this, don't blow this category off. These really are the legacy sequels where like I said at the beginning, these were all terrible ideas. None of these should have even been attempted.
right?
Not one of them should have been attempted, and yet they were, and maybe they weren't everything you wanted them to be, but they were something that worked really, really, really well on their own level, and that's why they're being celebrated here in their own little category. So
yeah, and we're going to start with Creed.
The Creed movies are, first of all, the Rocky movies aren't that great, so the Creed movies don't have a whole lot to live up to. The Rocky is great, and Creed is really, really good. The first legacy sequel, Creed's not as good as Rocky was in its day. Blah blah blah. It's not. We won't put them all on a line graph or anything. We don't have to do that. But the point is, the Creed sequels are kind of like the Rocky sequels. It really is very much diminishing returns as they go. But that's part of the Rocky legacy, I swear. Anyway, so they don't wear out their welcome. I don't think they're bad. I think that those are good movies, well thought out, really honor the past while bringing some of it along with them. And there's a lot to explore there. And this is one where we probably won't talk about much in the future. So it'd be nice to talk about it here, but I ran out of time on somewhere Mary Poppins there. I ran out of time. Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and next up is a movie I know.
The Creed movies are, if you like the Rocky movies,
yeah.
Creed movies are great. They're great.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the Rocky movies, the Creed movies might still be great to you because they're a different thing.
They're a different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up is a movie I know that will have a deep dive, and that is Blade Runner 2049.
That deep dive is definitely coming. It will not be a 4-hour deep dive like the original Blade Runner. But again, here's a movie that was just this movie just shouldn't be around. And this movie falls into all the things we've talked about here. So there's a lot of fun things to talk about. The misunderstanding of how truly popular Blade Runner really is definitely part of this film's legacy. Whether the demand for this was there in the size needed to support a film of this sort of magnitude. And yet there's the questions about, does this film need to be 2.5 hours long? No, it doesn't. But is that generosity of storytelling and that scale of honoring something's legacy part of what works in it? It is. So a lot to talk about with Blade Runner 2049, but mostly the miracle of it is it's an awful idea. They brought in a guy capable of making big blockbusters, and he made a huge expensive art film, and it still works and does nothing to take anything away from the original Blade Runner. I mean, it checks some of the toughest boxes in this category. And so in that way, bravo to everybody involved, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, next up is Dr. Sleep, the sequel, legacy sequel to The Shannon.
That will no doubt get we talked about it a little chunk when we were talking about Stephen King, but I hadn't seen it then. And then in my year in review, or one of the horror shows, I can't remember which, we talked about it, but I saved the best for last, so I had to fly through it just like I'm doing with these. That'll get its own show someday, because that's a legacy sequel that literally does everything right in an impossible way. Remind me, Joel, the name of that guy, the guy who made that.
Dr. Sleep?
Yeah, the writer-director.
The writer-director is Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan. Oh my God, dude. He just knows his way around the form in a way that is so instinctual and genius. And that film had to be an adaptation of Stephen King's sequel to his book, and it had to be a sequel to the movie that everybody loves. The things in which in both of them are diametrically opposed to one another, and it had to satisfy you and make you relive all that stuff, and it had to deliver new things to you. It had to have a huge middle act where our hero does nothing but sit around in a hospice with a cat and still be interesting, and those are the best parts of the movie. Like, it just is like, I just watched that movie in awe. I've seen it 3 times. It's tough. It's a rough one. I watched it with a friend of mine who couldn't handle it, and I think I couldn't handle it in a totally fair way. I get it, and I felt like I hurt my friend by even bringing, because I knew those things would come in, and I thought by warning him and being, you know what I mean, like that we could overcome that together and get to the big payoff parts of the movie, and he just literally couldn't get through it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, not finishing the movie. I know normally I'm not a fan of that, but not finishing it because you've been gutted, because you can only engage with art in an empathetic way, that's passing the humanity test. I mean, my buddy did that, and I'm the evil guy at the controls. Like, I just still feel he's forgiven me, but I just still feel a tremendous amount of guilt about that. But look, that's again the miracle of Dr. Sleep. That movie gets you there. It puts you right there where it is tough to go on, to continue on. That for a movie to do that is a very, very impressive feat. So we'll talk more about Dr. Sleep later.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me after we're done here who that friend was.
I will. It'll break your heart when you hear.
Oh no,
like the dude who least deserves it in the whole world, probably.
I have a guess. All right, next up is Top Gun Maverick,
which we just talked about a few episodes ago. Just go back to our final episode of our year in reviews. I believe it's the 9th year in review episode. Next year, there'll be 19 of them. Woo! Hang in there. Hey, you say, why don't we talk about current events enough? I mean, there you go. There they are, for better or worse. And I think they still have usefulness as things you can return to and listen to, so the way we try and categorize them. But we don't need to talk about what's great about Maverick. We don't need to, it's all the same things with Blade Runner. It's not the, first of all, it's just not the same. It is not the same at all. It's not the same approach to storytelling. When it are the only couple of times it fails. That scene in the bar where he has to keep buying everybody drinks and stuff. That scene is interminable and goes on and on and on and on forever, and it's awful. And it's trying to give you a little slice of that boys on the side kind of quality that Top Gun has. And when it does that, it's terrible. But when it really brings the reverence, when it really brings the action, when it really gets two characters clashing over things that they believe in, man, that film it knocks your socks off. And I don't even think Top Gun is good. So I guess this is Joel had one of these, right? Tron Legacy. I like Top Gun Maverick. Holy cow. It shouldn't surprise me because those films are by the same guy. I like to some degree or another, and to a large degree here, I like the Legacy sequel better than the original by a lot, actually. Maybe that will wear off next time I watch it, when it's not new and fresh and blowing my mind. When it just is what it is, maybe it's not that great. In fact, I suspect it's not. But it still gets the award for Legacy sequels to a certain degree, because an impossible task put ahead of everybody, and somehow there it is, biggest movie in America of the year. And it's really, really tough to find someone anywhere who doesn't like it. And when you make a movie for everybody and everybody likes it, the rest is gravy, truly.
Right. Yeah. And now we're going to end the show talking about a highly anticipated Legacy sequel that comes out very, very soon here. In fact, it comes out on the 30th of this month. And that is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
It almost escapes being a Legacy sequel, because there was sort of another Legacy sequel bridging the gap between them. The
Crystal Skull, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh yeah, right. I always want to call it the Invaders from Mars or whatever they were going to originally call it. So I don't know. I haven't seen this. I missed buying pre-sale tickets for it, so I got to find a seat here amongst the chaos one of the opening nights. But I'm going to the theater for the first time because of this. Raiders of the Lost Ark it's not the best movie ever made, but it's my favorite movie of all time.
Right.
I just think everything I go to the
episode season 1, episode 1.
Indiana Jones, we got those in our back pocket for deep dives in the future. This will probably be part of that, one way or another. Very hopeful for this. I thought I thought Logan was a really, really good character capper.
Yeah.
And just a really good movie in its own right. I thought most of Mangold's films I feel that way about. And I like the initial writing team. I don't like seeing David Koepp's name on the script ever. I never liked that. But the other guys, I think we're in good hands with them. The people who made Ford versus Ferrari and stuff like. So I'm really hopeful that this is good and meaningful, and I certainly hope it's not as dour as Logan was. Logan's a dark, ugly dread. It's an endurance test of a movie emotionally to some degree. I'm not really into that, but it appears like they know what movie they're making the sequel to, and yet they're still trying to bring an element of that to it. And I really think the character could use a send-off. Even, God bless him, even though I was ripping on him early in the show, even a J.J. Abrams level send-off would be better than I think what we got in Crystal Skull. And so I think even if it just succeeds on that level, it will be a welcome thing. And it has the potential to be better. So I'm very excited for it, but more on that when I see it, I suppose.
Yeah. So that is going to do it for our episode on legacy sequels.
Joel spent a whole bunch of time setting up a whole big ending for this, and I just talked.
That's okay. No, that's okay, because this auction we can do. We're doing it
anytime. It's not necessarily legacy.
No, the idea of legacy is what got me thinking about this, and we're gonna do an auction of our favorite episodes of the movie show with Joel and Ryan. Can I quick play my theme? It's 15 seconds long.
Please.
Yeah, this is what we're gonna have. And for some reason, it did not transfer over correctly. Oh, that's a bummer.
Well, it's just one more thing for them to look forward to when we actually do it. Or did you lose it?
No, here I can play it from iTunes because I'm sharing my sound. Here we go. And auction. Why is it not playing? Suddenly everything is not playing. Oh my goodness, this is embarrassing. Okay, well,
maybe you'll hear it if you stay all the way to the end of the actual ending. We'll stick it in.
Stick it on at the end. Yeah.
You'll hear it when we actually do the segment. Joel, solidarity with the Writers Guild of America. Am I right?
Yeah, indeed. All right, gang. Next week, a very special episode. And
this was evidence of how AI truly can fail us in our moment of need.
Yeah. Indeed. Next week is a very special episode. I will be out traveling, but Ryan will be joined by our good friend Michael Kaluga again. Woo! And we will have a movie show with Michael and Ryan. And I guarantee
it'll be the legacy prequels.
And it's going to be good stuff.
And Alien Covenant. So if you wanted us to finally get to those, it's happening. Why?
Well,
because it was truly the lowest hanging fruit on the tree, man. We had to grab what we knew we could do in a hurry. So
right, indeed,
it should be fun. Should be fun, right? Those movies have a lot to like, and they have a lot to hate, and that usually makes for the best discussions rather than love it or hate it type of stuff.
All right, well, that's gonna do it for this week. Thanks, everybody. Have a good. And nothing is playing again. What, David Blaine? Okay. Holy buckets. I'm going to shut this app down, and that is...
And we'll fix this. We'll fix this in post. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and play mine while we sit here.
Yeah, here we go. Let's see if it... Nope, you have to play yours out.
I'm playing it. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for hanging with us.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.
And now a YouTube exclusive Joel's auction theme song edited in post due to technological betrayal.
Complete betrayal. Here we go.
All right, let's go right there. And what do you want to give for him? I'm bid 40 over here, now 5. You're 40 over here, now 45. Bid it out for me over here, now 55. 55. I'm the boys of the 45 over here, now 60. Now 60 over here, now 5 over there, now 70. Run up here, now 5 over there.
They're now sold. 400% bullshit round here.